Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. This time I would like to show the second round of the Manufacturers Cup Exhibition Series, which took place at Road Atlanta with the Group 3 cars. For this race I also decided to go with the beer set instead of the WRX, mainly due to the tire which was set for this race, which you can already see there on the top of the screen, which is set to times 4. And the WRX is a car which doesn't really treat its tires that well. So because of that, I decided to go with the beer set, and I also wanted to see how it's like to try and overtake a car on the straights here, if possible. I mean, you will see it in the race later on how much time I was losing on the straights, which is which was quite funny and sad to say on the same time, because obviously this car is like a handling machine and a car which uses a lot of the momentum. And in Sector 1, that's where the beer set shine a lot. But in Sector 2 and Sector 3, that's where the beer set struggle a lot, mainly due to the lack of acceleration and top speed. But here, we have the qualifying session which lasts for 5 minutes, and this is also the second split of slot 2, which I also wanted to mention earlier. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join the first slot yesterday, mainly due to a 24-hour league race happening at the very same moment. And I wanted to do the first stand before, so that I could also help out my team a bit here, and on the same time, us having a really good league race in the meantime. Like, after recording this video here, I'll be going over to the league race once again and try to do the penultimate stint of the 24-hour race, and hopefully we can also secure a good result there for our team. But going back to the qualifying session here, it lasts for 5 minutes, and the strategy for the qualifying session here was mainly due to the tire wear being that high. I wasn't really sure whether your second flying lap could have been quicker in the end due to the tire temperature. So mainly because of the tire wear, the strategy was to do an out lap, then to do your qualifying lap in the end, and once you finish your lap you would go back into the pits immediately to do to repeat it once again, so that you would have another out lap available, so that you can also finish it off by trying and improve your qualifying time once again. So here, this is our first attempt, I believe it was. The first corner was, I think it was okay. I think I could have carried a bit more speed through turn 1. This is probably the most difficult corner at the circuit, like the blind right-hander. Like, you can easily start turning a bit too early there, and once you do that, you will just drive onto the curbs, which is going to unsettle your car a lot, and this is something you don't want to do by any means. So our first sector was alright. Heading into the second sector here, the first corner here was good too. Here for the exit I was a bit hesitant here, because you can already see here you have to use the third gear with the beer set for the exit, but once you do that, the rear is going to, I don't want to say unsettle a lot, but you're going to have a lot of torque once you want to put the power down, and thus the rear tires might spin a bit too much. And this is another problematic corner here, the first left-hander, like this one, because you were already able to see here how much the BSF was bouncing off over the curb, because normally you kind of have to cut the inside there to have a better exit for the following right-hander. And cars such as the Lexus M6 GTR, like those cars don't have an issue using the curbs over there. But with the beer set and also the few of the other MR cars, such as the Lamborghini, Ferrari, they kind of struggle to take the same racing line or like driving line through the corner. So you really had to, you kind of had to rely on your car not bouncing a bit too much there. But yeah, our first banker lap is a 0.3, which is not that bad, but it could have been better. Because we also lost like a bit of time in the final sector due to the amount of wiggle we had there. Or like, in other words, how much the beer set was sliding around there once I wanted to put down the power, right? But now you can also see on the top of the screen, like just underneath the rear mirror, that we still had like a minute left for the qualifying session. So we were still able to do our final attempt, but we still managed to place ourselves in P3 at the very moment, just right behind of Elias and Maxel, who both had a really good lap time here, like a 17.0, which is really good. Even though there were like few other drivers who managed to do like a 16.7, 16.8, still being able to do that lap time is good due to the difficulties of the track I mentioned earlier, like trying to nail everything here, which is like the blind right-hander, for example, or like trying to carry as much speed as possible for turn 1, but also try not to run a bit too wide there. And now this is our final attempt. And here, compared to our previous lap, I felt like I lost like even more time there, because yeah, I wasn't really able to hit the apex there as much as I wanted to, and also run a bit too wide there. But the blind right-hander was better than the previous lap in my opinion. And we're also approaching the final left-hander, trying not to use the grass as well, because then you will have dirty tires. Here I was kinda lucky to get away, not receiving a penalty here, because I really thought at that time that I would get a penalty here. But here I was able to improve my sector 1 time a bit. This one I also had a better exit for the final corner in sector 2. Well, I think on this first corner of sector 2 I might have lost a tiny bit of time, but the exit is like more important to nail in the end. And here you're able to see that I managed to improve both of my sectors just ever so slightly, but here I knew if I nailed the sector 3, which I think it was decent, like not good, but it was okay, then I could finish in front of Distinct, who was just 1,000th of a second in front of me at that time. But we managed to beat him, fortunately, because overtaking the Supra on the straights would have been impossible, probably. So finishing this qualifying session just behind of Elias and Max, who were both driving the M6, was really decent, and probably I couldn't have hoped for anything better, because even if I had secured pole position here, then I would have been overtaking on the straights easily. Because as for the strategy, this is something I'm going to talk about in a very brief moment, so I will catch you guys pretty soon. So, before we're going to start the race, I would like to go through the grid once again, where anybody's starting the race from. So in pole position we have Elias in the M6, where Maxu follows him just right behind, starting the race from P2 on the same car. Then in P3 there's me, like the little polar bear moment here. Then in P4 we have Rambat with the Supra, amazing lap by him too. Monorodra in P5 in the GTR, Horseback in P6 with the M6, Rabak in P7 with the GTR. Then in P8 we have Wet Max with the AMG, P9 Sparks and another Supra, P10 Humbert with the Porsche, P11 Adrenaline with another Porsche here, P12 Taylor, like amazing lap with the Suzuki, P13 Diogo with the Audi, P14 Salvi with the Alfa Romeo, P15 we have Leon with the M6, and lastly P16 Cipala with the Citroen, which is really good on tires, by the way, the Citroen. So as for the strategy for this race, I will just repeat it once again. For the race, the fuel consumption was set to ×1, but the tire wear was set to ×4. And the requirement for this race was that we had to use the medium tire compound as well as the soft tire compound at least once. And usually, like if you were watching the Los Angeles World Tour event, the predicted strategy from the team, if I can say that, was a two-stop strategy. Because ×4 tire wear, we also have like few high-speed corners here, such as in sector 1. Like for example this corner here, I would classify it as a high-speed corner. Then the following right-hander is like a mid to high speed in my opinion. And then the following S's another high-speed corners in my opinion. These are the corners where the front left tire is going to wear a lot, and usually, or like due to that, the predicted strategy was a two-stop strategy where you would probably do 12 to 13 laps on the medium tire compound and do 8 laps or like 9 laps on the soft tire compound twice. However, what we saw at the live event was a one-stop strategy, and here I did a little mistake here where, yeah, the rear wanted to step out a bit too soon, which I like to call like the beer sit moment sometimes. But going back to the strategy, so at the live event we saw a one-stop strategy, and this was also the fastest way to go, because unfortunately the pit lost time for this race is not that short, where a two-stop strategy would have been quicker than a one-stop strategy. So due to the pit loss time being the way as it is, we were all forced to do a one-stop strategy, because otherwise you would have lost way too much time. Even if you are driving on dead tires, it's still quicker than doing a two-stop strategy here, unfortunately. So because of that, I tried not to push too much. Even though sector 1 is the sector where the BSZ shines, or it's like a tiny bit quicker than the M6 and the Lexus, for example, in sector 1. But on the same time, because of us having the custom slipstream, I still try not to lose the gap to the leaders in front of me, because I knew that if I was having the custom slip, I could also try to dictate my own pace. Because of the BSZ here, you can already see here on the gaps on the left hand side how much time I'm losing on the straights, which is a bit sad to see. Like at this moment I really felt like the Super GT drivers for Subaru, like Iguchi-san and Yamauchi-san, because they are driving the real BSZ GT300 in real life. And there was a moment where I think it was a race at Fuji Speedway, where the car in front of the BSZ was the Lexus, and the Lexus was just pulling away on the straights, even though the BSZ was having its slipstream, and the gap between the BSZ and the Lexus at that time was like maybe less than 0.2 of a second. So I really felt like driving the real BSZ here from the Subi GT series, because it's quick through the corners, as you can see here, but it struggled so much on the straight line. So I really had to rely on the custom slip here, so that I could keep up with the pace of the other drivers around me. But nevertheless, I think if I had a bit more power maybe, that I could have maybe saved my tires a bit more in sector 1, so that I could have relied on the power buff, if I can say that, on the straights here alone, or like through the acceleration sections. Due to that, yeah, I was not really able to save my tires as much as I wanted to for sector 1, because at this circuit, where you want to save your tires the best is in sector 1. And then here I also felt like if you took a wider line here on the final corner before you start your lap and came across like this, then you could have also saved your tires a bit more, because the key in saving your tires is not only the input of your throttle and braking, but also the amount of steering input you do. So the less steering you use, you would also put less friction onto your tires, and if you put less friction onto your tires, then you would also build less tire temperature up, right? Because this is something we cannot avoid, because throughout the race the tire temperatures are going to heat up more and more. But the key is, if you are able to sort of cool down your tires a bit earlier, or like even better than the other opponents on the track, then you're able to treat your tires a lot better, and thus the tire life is also going to be increased further. And this is something which we all try to do, and also what Maxo and Elias tried to do in front of me. Here Manu Rodri was trying to overtake me here, so that's why I still tried to use the slipstream and use the 6 gear here on the same time. Because he was on a different strategy, which you're also about to see later on. Like he was on a 2-stop strategy, and you need to watch our gaps here. Like you still can see here that Manuel Rodri was still close to us, right? Like still closely leading, following the leaders in this race. But you need to pay attention to the gap he was having, like from here by the end of the race, because he was on a two-stop strategy, and me, Elias, Maxo, and pretty much almost all the other drivers here were doing a one-stop. Because even towards the end of the stint, our front left tire is going to be extremely dead. It's still way quicker than doing a two-stop strategy, unfortunately. But nevertheless, we were able to hold off our position here. And sometimes for this race, I was also trying to use a lower gear-ish so that I could rev it out even more, and thus having a bit less fuel on board towards the end of the race. Because as the fuel consumption rate was set to ×1, you don't have to save fuel, and this also gave you, this also gave you the opportunity to burn a bit more fuel. And because the lighter your car is, the better it can also treat the tires, right? So yeah, this is something I tried to do here, and we're also in lap 6, and here I also received some bump from Manuel Rodri so that we could also stick to the leaders in front of us. And I also used my hazard lights here to show my thanks. I think if I was Manuel Rodri, it would have been a bit frustrating due to the slipstream train here, because he was on a different strategy, which I didn't think at that time that he was doing a two-stop strategy, because I thought it was already commonly known for us to do a one-stop strategy here. So yeah, I didn't expect him to do a two-stop strategy, but it might have been due to the GTR having worse tires than the M6 BSZ here. Like, it definitely has worse tires than the BSZ, and also it's also a bit worse than the M6 here. But yeah, it just shows you that even if your car is really good on one lap pace, if the race setting doesn't suit your car, it can favor like some other brands instead, or like bring back so many of the other brands instead, such as the Citroen. Like the Citroen, I would say, is not really a good car for qualifying or like for one lap pace, but for this race here alone, as it has a really good tire wear, it was able to keep up with the leading cars so well, if not even driving quicker than them. Because Miu, for example, like VQS Miu, he decided to drive for Citroen this year, or like for this exhibition season, I mean. And I think on the first slot he managed to finish P3, and he was only 1 second shy of winning the race after even serving a penalty. So that just shows you that, okay, even if your car, for the one lap pace at least, might be good, you still need to take a look at the race settings, because that can change so many things around. Well, maybe the BSZ might be good in the end, like at Spa, right? For the first run of the manufacturer's car. Yes, on dry conditions it was not good, but I was desperately hoping to have some rain, because that's why I knew the BSZ was going to be one of the strongest cars relatively to the other ones, right? But unfortunately it never happened, so I had to kinda rely on other things instead, so how I could still try and secure a decent position in the end. And here Elias and Maxo were starting to pull away ever so slightly, and this is what I mean. Like, I kinda had to try and push a tiny bit in sector 1 so that I could close down the gap once again and rely on the slipstream on the back straight. And this is something which was a bit unfortunate for myself, because I wanted to save my tires a bit better, and I could have saved them a bit better too, but because of me trying to keep up with the leading cars, I was trying to push for a few laps on the first sector. It's not really a push, but in other words, trying to use the tires a bit more, just a tiny bit more. And here, at this stage, the front lap was still looking good, I think, because the strategy I was trying to do was 20 laps on mediums and 10 laps on softs. You could have, or like in my case, I could have done 19 laps on mediums and 11 laps on softs as well. But with the tire wheel being set to ×4, I was like, hey, you can just do another lap on the medium tire, so that for any, let's say, I don't want to call it urgent cases, but if you need to push, or if you cannot overtake the driver in front of you on the medium stint, then you can try to not really overcut it, but like trying to have a way better tire life towards the end of the race, where I could maybe fight for the victory even, and secure the victory, right? And this is something what I tried to do here, because I knew overtaking both of these cars was going to be extremely difficult on the straights. But maybe by using a different strategy, I could have maybe fought for the win here. Because at this point here, I also didn't know that Maxwell was going to pit at the end of lap 19, because I also thought he was going to pit at the end of lap 20. Hence you will see a little confusion from my side, because I wanted to follow him, but then decided not to, because I still wanted to go for another lap, and yeah, just having a better tire life towards the end of the race. Because when I rejoined the pits, yeah, this is already like a little spoiler already, which I apologize, but I don't want to talk for the entirety of this video here. So that you can also watch the raw footage, obviously. I was a bit not really scared, but I was like, okay, the gap is already up to 3 seconds. How am I supposed to close it down, right? Because we only had like 10 laps to go, and I also needed to look after my tires a bit. But I think Max on the very same time, he wanted to look after his tires even more, and I was able to, yeah, have a good pace in the end. I just want to say like that. So I think that's mainly it. What I needed to talk about, or what I wanted to share with you guys here. And if I missed anything to talk about, I apologize for it. If I did, please let me know on the comment sections down below, so that I can also answer them straight away. And from this point onwards, I would like to wish you to enjoy the rest of this video here, and I will still wish you a really nice Sunday and a really good week ahead. And from my side, yeah, please enjoy this video here. I also appreciate all the support I've been receiving recently, and I wish you guys a really good time still. So until then, see ya!